Hey everyone, how you doing? I am Dr. Linda Joy Rose. I go by LJ. And this is the second webinar that I've done for Learn It Live. It's a great organization, and I'm excited to share this with you today. I am going to be sharing my screen with information, and then I'll stop share when I think it's better when I'm demoing how to do the thoracic T. So let me get ready to share. Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to be teaching you a simple strategy for working through emotional regulation. And this is a good time for me to get the glasses on. And I'll be looking up at the screen too, just in case somebody's wanting to come in that I haven't seen. And I'm doing this for the Unshakable Symposium. So this is also part of a master class series that we introduced through the Natural Wellness Academy. And it's a self-soothing system for releasing anxiety or other trapped emotions. It's a therapeutic tool. And that's what most of my career has been. I got my PhD as a psychologist, but towards the end, I switched to cross-cultural psychology. I was very interested in the subconscious mind, hypnotherapy, Jungian psychology, and I was working in the Hispanic community at the time. And I had a private practice for several years, and then the work that I was doing was being recognized internationally. So I began to travel around the world. It was kind of like, I'd go to Tokyo every month. I lived in California at the time. I'm in Tampa, Florida now. And I used to say it was my morning commute and go on to a lot of other countries. And I would create different tools and modalities based around the power of the subconscious mind. Although I've always believed that there should be a balance between mind and body and spirit. So everything I teach is around that because I think I was a person that was very much in my mind, interested in spirit, but very detached, I think, from my physical body, which started showing up, after a decade and a half of constant traveling internationally. I developed an autoimmune disorder. And so, as a result of finding strategies to heal that, became very interested in coaching and counseling and teaching online. And so, in 2013, I launched the Natural Wellness Academy. So we just celebrated our 13th birthday, and we have a lot of really unique niches in coaching, everything from spiritual wellness to neurodivergence, nature therapy, medical cannabis. I'll give you the information so that you can check it out yourselves. But this was something near and dear to me because about 10 years ago, I developed a panic disorder. Something was going on in my life, and the tools that I already knew were not working. I tried many things. I tried tapping. This is really not anything like tapping, although some people might think it is. And I'll even have something downloadable that explains how it is very different from tapping. But I was working kind of with the idea of hitting on those particular areas. And I developed this technique that I call the thoracic T. And the T is because it makes a T shape and also because it is a thump. It's not a tap, it's a thump. But I'll be teaching you how to do this and let you practice it and everything on there. And it was so effective for me. And so I started really developing kind of beta testing on it. And this is the type of thing that you can teach to children. It's that easy. And you can really do it any time, any place. I mean, if you're in an office surrounded by people, you can go to the restroom, go to your car, but it is something rather simple. So what we're going to speak about today in the webinar is the actual benefits of practicing the thoracic T. I'm going to show you the basic technique, and then it looks like most of you have your camera off, which is perfect because I'm going to encourage you to practice and find out which of the techniques works the best for you. And it kind of evolves over time too. And we're going to talk about, while you're practicing it, I'll talk about the philosophy and the science behind the thoracic T and how the mind, body, spirit equilibrium is found. And everything that we do at the Academy, everything I teach is all around holism, the idea that mind and body and spirit need to be given equal opportunity. As I mentioned, the thoracic T is different from tapping. It doesn't have a setup statement that you have to. It doesn't have anything to do with the meridians. It has really more to do with the glands. And this is why I believe you get a very quick effect from it. And we're also going to talk about the deeper levels of it, which is the intuition and the chakra systems when we get into the spirit side. And if there's time, I'd love to walk you through an advanced application that really works for trapped sorrow or depression or sadness. And if time is not permitting, it might even be better. I'm thinking of recording that as like an MP3 or MP4. I know that when I'm in a situation like in a webinar like this, it's difficult for me to go really deeply into a guided application. So I think I will actually record that and make that available on the dashboard for Learn It Live. And if for some reason you need to get it, we also have it where you can, sign up for the free class and get access to all the materials too. So before I teach you what the thoracic T is, let's talk about the benefits. As I mentioned, it's something you can do anytime, anywhere. It just takes moments to do, and you'll immediately start to feel relief. And it brings focus, which is really important. We are living in a time where emotional dysregulation is rampant. In adults and children and elderly, this is a really trying time. Things are moving literally at the speed of light, and we need to do this kind of self-care so that we can gain more emotional resilience, that ability to bounce back, because things are just happening around us, around the country, around the world, because I know that there are people joining us from different countries in the world. We're based in the United States. We have students from the Natural Wellness Academy in more than 40 countries too. So the idea is to create more emotional resilience, and we're going to look into what heart coherence is, because this will help you facilitate that very important mind-body connection. It does help immediately to release anxiety and trapped emotions. We'll talk about all the damage that does to us physically, emotionally, spiritually, to have those trapped emotions. And it also helps to reroute those neural pathways. And we'll talk a little bit about how that happens too. It improves your immunity. In fact, there is one particular, area that you're tapping that will actually build your immune system through your thymus gland. It restores equilibrium and vitality, and it increases self-awareness, because as you're starting to take that proactive care of yourself, and you notice when you're starting to go into that place, and before you go really deeply and spiral into that place, as you start to use this modality, you will become more mindful, and you will be able to tap into higher levels of consciousness. And because it's so self-soothing, you can do this rather than acting on those cravings and impulses that are naturally going to come when we're just trying to feel better. That's what's happening to all of us. Just like 10 years ago, I just wanted to feel better. So this is really very simply what it is. And then I'm going to go through the steps of it, and then I'm going to turn the share off for a second so I can kind of demo it. As I mentioned, the T stands for not just the thumb, but an actual T, which is going across the breastbone, just above your pectoral muscles, and women just above where your breasts start, and go down to the solar plexus area down here. So It's probably going to be easier for women to have better results, like when you're home and you're comfortable and you're not in a bra. But you could be doing this if you are at work and getting stressed out. Don't let that stop you. It's just going to be a little bit more effective when you can really get into that thymus gland too. So this is the basic application of the thoracic T. And I believe that it works for when you have anxiety, worry, you're projecting things into the future, you're dreading things that are going to happen. There's somebody else coming in. You're dreading something that's going to happen, fear. Fear is just really the basis of everything that we're going through. So if you have fears, this will be a very good way to be able to, and you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up there so it doesn't interfere with the nose. Anger and sorrow. So the thoracic T will work on all of these. And so what you do is you bring your focus to that breastbone, what we call your heart center. And I'll demo this to you in a little bit. You're going to use your 3 middle fingers, or you can use your knuckles, you can use your fist, you can use an open palm, and you begin to thump. It's decisively not a tap, it is a thump. It's firm but gentle above the breastbone. You can go back and forth, up and down, whatever pattern feels right to you. You can even use a rounded object or crystal if that feels better to you too. Now, as you are performing these movements, you take deep cleansing breaths. And there is, I will give you a link to a technique called the 20 breaths that I created many years ago that has been a lifesaver for me and has been so popular. Through all the years of the academy. It's something that we teach in most of the classes. And then while you're doing it, because, I'm going to ask that you do this and practice this after I show you how to do it while I'm going through the material, notice which hand position works better, which direction, which style brings you the most comfort. This will change also from time to time. I started out with the 3 fingers, and then I found, that the knuckles, and then I found that actually working with the fist, and I'll show you all that in a second. So as you are performing the thoracic T, and you do it for about 3 to 5 minutes or longer, mentally or verbally. You don't have to do this, but it is very self-soothing, and you can use a statement like, I am safe and protected at all times. That's my go-to. I am loving, lovable, and loved. Every moment I'm feeling better and better. Everything is okay. All of those really work well. Let me bring this back over to the side. Now, what I'm going to do is for a moment, I'm going to stop the share, and I should be on your main speaker thing right now, although that's not what's showing on. So I'm going to put this down a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And I purposely didn't wear a necklace just to show you. So you can start out by trying with the tips of the 3 fingers, and you want to go across your breastbone back and forth, and then down. And you can go down, or you can just make the T each time, or you can go backwards. There's really no steadfast rule. It's just doing it. Now, you can use your knuckles to do it. So you're tapping in there, or you're thumping, should be a thump, and it feels really good. Like right away, you get this feeling of relief and release as you're doing it. And then, thinking those thoughts or using affirmations, or, did the knuckle, or sometimes this just feels the best to me, is just using kind of the fist, or you can even use the whole palm. Every once in a while, I'll find myself watching TV where I'm doing that. And sometimes I'm just really stay more in that above the breastbone area. And sometimes I'm performing the whole T. It's just, again, you're going to find out what works best for you. So let me go back to sharing. And what I'd like you to do, it looks like everybody's camera's off. So while I'm explaining the why and how and the philosophy of how this works, go ahead and practice it and see, so that you can share a little bit about it. And I'll go back to my board. Cool. All right, and then we'll take this back up to the top so it's not in the way. All right, so that's the basic how to do it. And let's talk about why this works, because that's what's really exciting, is that there is real science. It's not just a woo-woo thing. There's science behind this. What's the philosophy and the science? Okay, first we'll talk about body. Now we have right there in our, breastbone, right behind our breastbone, in that area right there is called the thymus gland. And it is both an endocrine and a lymphatic gland. Some of our glands are just endocrine, meaning that they release neurotransmitters, and some of them are just lymphatic, which filters. They do their job of filtering. And the thymus gland is very important because it does both, and it's crucial to the immune system. It is what produces and circulates the lymphocytes, which are your T cells. So when we have constant and unresolved anxiety or stress that we're not dealing with, this weakens our immune response. For instance, I think it had been well over 20 years that my husband and I had a flu, and we just had one thing after another at the end of the year and the beginning of the year, and just kind of weren't doing enough of the self-care and weren't working prophylactically or proactively with the thoracic T, and we wound up with quite a flu. We never found out exactly what we had. So your immune system always weakens when you have stress. So as you start to use the thoracic T, you're actually building up your immunity, you're stimulating the production of T cells, and you are going to be much more immune and stronger. Now, we have what's called the autonomic nervous system, the fight or flight. And I'm going to kind of explain it the way I do, because I do, trainings all around the world in hypnotherapy and how the subconscious works. So going down one side of our spinal column, we have what's called the sympathetic nervous system. And this is the same system, the autonomic nervous system, that we inherited from our cave people ancestors. And when one of those cave men or women or children were facing some sort of danger, a signal would be sent along the sympathetic nervous system through that nerve, and that would start to give an immediate message to the body. It would give the message to the heart to start pumping blood to the extremities, to start increasing respiration, because they had like one of two options. You could either stay and fight, so you wanted to have your arms really strong or your legs really strong with blood pumping to them so that you could run away, or, so you could either stay and fight or you could flee. So that's why it's called the fight or flight. And once danger passes, the body needs to return to the state of homeostasis. We really need to be in homeostasis the majority of our life, because that is where the body can repair itself. And when we're constantly in the sympathetic excitation place, it's very hard for the body to reset itself, because what it's supposed to do is along the other side of the spine, you have this parasympathetic nerve, and that starts to send the opposite messages. So the neurotransmitters that are coming out in the sympathetic nervous response would be adrenaline and cortisol, all the things that kind of get us moving and excited and overexcited. And then the endorphins, the serotonin, the dopamine has to come through the parasympathetic nervous system to return the body to homeostasis. Now, we probably in a given day in this modern world face more stressors that start to activate this fight or flight. And we have a physical toll of stress if we are not working with it, because stress is only going to deepen. It's not going to disappear on its own. So it's interesting. When I first created the storyboard, the first time I was teaching the thoracic T was about a year or two after COVID. And so I went back a little bit more because obviously in the COVID years, the leading cause of death in the United States were from COVID. But going back, it was always heart disease. And this really only started happening at the beginning of the 20th century when the world became more accelerated. Of course, now in the 21st century, it's a lot more accelerated. But this was a phenomena that started really where heart disease was almost unknown. It was rare for somebody to die from heart disease. So what I did today when I was getting the new storyboard ready is I looked up, okay, what's the top leading causes of death, in 2025? The first one, I didn't list all of them. Again, heart disease. So we have a problem in that stress is getting trapped in the heart and it's not getting a release or a relief. And this is why it's really important to start to use something like the thoracic tea, something that is proactive. Now, we'll talk about the mind. So we have this little tiny almond-shaped organ in the brain called the amygdala, and it works with a couple other, the hippocampus. There's a whole thing about the neuroanatomy and neuroscience, but that is activated by subconscious belief systems that we have. And from these subconscious belief systems in our mind, which is part of our programming, we have these recurring emotions, these thoughts and these feelings, and they work as triggers. This is what automatically starts to get the fight or flight system going. And it does not get deactivated without intervention. It's not going to go away. Maybe what you were worried about disappears, but something else will pop in. And there's definitely always going to be trapped emotions because we are emoting human beings and we are reacting. And also these trapped emotions, they affect our self-image, our how we perceive the world, how we believe that the world perceives us, because we feel unresolved about these trapped emotions. If you're living in anxiety and worry, then you're very future oriented and not actually part of, what is happening in the present moment. If you are a person that tends towards sorrow and depression and sadness, then that would be living in the past. And very rarely are we actually here in the present moment where we can deal. And this is a technique that will put you in that present moment and give you more mindfulness as well. Now, there is also in Western kind of the ontological framework of Western medicine is really based on kind of a brain versus the heart. The Newtonian model, the old model of physics, has a very mechanistic view of the universe. And so in the traditional medicine and the psychiatric model, they believe that it is the brain that is the master organ. And in the Eastern, the indigenous, the spiritual model, they say that the heart is at least as important as to the brain, if not more. So back in the 1800s, when René Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," and Cartesian philosophy was developed, yes, it was a wonderful thing because it brought a lot of philosophy and reason and logic to the table and science, but it kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater in that it just did not recognize the heart was important. And back in the early 90s, the Heart Math Institute out of Colorado began to understand that there are actually more messages that go to the brain from the heart than vice versa. So all of these emotions, like we mentioned when I was reviewing how to do the thoracic tea, anxiety, dread, fear, guilt, anger, sorrow, depression, worry, all of these can be originating from the heart. And this is why if we start to work with the thoracic tea, regularly, we are releasing and relieving that pressure from the heart, which is going to improve our body, our immune response. It's going to improve our self-image. We're going to just feel generally better because that puts us in present moment. Now, many of us go through what's called an amygdala hijacking. It's also called a neural hijacking. And what happens is that certain things trigger us and these neural nets get formed. And if you remember Joe Dispenza, he kind of made this saying famous, although I don't think it was I don't think he was the first one, but in What the Bleep movie, What the Bleep, he said, neurons that fire together wire together. So over time, every time we have this kind of reaction to our boss getting upset with us because maybe it's related to a father who was an alcoholic, and all of these nets start to get formed where they're interrelated. So we can walk in the office and we're a few minutes late and we just think he's going to be upset with us, and immediately we go into that kind of neural hijacking where we just lose control. We feel anxious. We're certainly not in the present moment. And most of the time, what we're going to do, and you wouldn't be alone because this is what we all do, is we go to mood altering behavior. I know that when I was going through my panic disorder, I just wanted out of it. I just couldn't stand the feeling. I'm a very kind of talking head person. So anything that's going on in my body just kind of just that pulls me away from my head is just, it feels horrifying to me. And so that whole thing, when I was going through it and then I started using the thoracic tea, I noticed that I was not running to this mood altering behavior as much, because whether it is a drug or drinking, or alcohol, it's or something like that, it maybe we don't, maybe that's not what I was running to, but we all have obsessive and destructive behaviors. It could be to just scrolling, like we call that, doom scrolling sometimes, or an addiction to sex, shopping, gambling, addiction even to danger. And all of these are related to fear. The fear of, really it boils down to these unnameable fears are a fear that we're just not good enough, not lovable, not living up to our potential, a fear of life in general. So going back to HeartMath, it's a wonderful organization. And they started studying heart-brain coherence 35 years ago. And they found that the most high performance state is when the heartbeats are harmonized and there's balance going through your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And this would be when the heart and the mind are working together in coherence. And that's another thing that happens when you start using regularly the thoracic tea, is that you are starting to listen. You start to kind of feel that things get synchronized. And this is a great saying: the heart instructs through thoughts, emotions, beliefs. And Greg Braden, who is a wonderful human potential teacher, said the heart has a lot to say. And we are just not trained in, I say Western society. I worked in Japan for a dozen years, and even though they have more openness to certain ideas, they were also very disconnected from the heart. So it's not just like it's just Westerners. It's all around the world, and especially now, there's so much emotional dysregulation. So let's talk about the spirit. Now, this is your heart center. And if you've done yoga or you've ever had somebody do the namaste to you, that is virtually saying that I bow to the divine spark, the God in you, which lives here. Because you can even be doing it. Sometimes what I do when I do a namaste in our Pilates classes, I reach my thumbs in to that thymus area too. Another person that wants to come in. Okay. And so that heart center really is the seat of the soul, the seat of the spirit, where we get our intuitive guidance, where self-love and purpose generate. And so it's very important. The heart has a certain knowing. I love the saying, the brain thinks, but the heart knows. Like, we even have sayings, we say this a lot, like, I just know it. I know it deep in my heart. Why would we say that unless there was some truth about how much the heart really knows? It's just that we tend to be very disconnected from the heart. And I love this song. I love this line, Matt, the Black Horse and the Cherry Tree. Well, my heart knows me better than I know myself, so I'm going to let it do all the talking. I just love that line, and I included it. So intuition. This is something that in, the Western hemisphere, we're not really understanding that intuition is a very real thing, that we are getting pure and true information when you know how to leave yourself open. And I love this. I read this years ago in a Florence Scovel Shinn book. Her most famous book is The Game of Life and How to Live It. Intuition means to be being tutored from within. I just love that. So when we are able to quiet down and listen to our heart by healing our heart through the thoracic T by taking these moments, then we actually can hear these intuitive messages. We become more aware of them and we start to trust them. Right now, if you get an intuitive message, you're like, well, what is that really speaking to me? Should I trust it? Should I believe it? But as you start to make this coherence between the brain and the heart, you will trust it more. I wanted to hit on the chakra system too. These are energy points. And just like our physical body has this glandular system, like the thymus is a gland, our etheric body, our subtle body, and they've been able to even measure this. So this is not just something that is woo-woo anymore. We do have an etheric body, and the openings are called chakras. And chakra is a word that comes from Sanskrit, which means wheel. So it's really like if a healthy chakra, to people who are intuitively able to see chakras or work with chakras, we cover this a lot. We have a spiritual wellness life coaching, and we even send all the students a pendulum to be able to measure the movement of the chakra. So for instance, since we're going to be working in these two areas, the heart chakra, the Anahata chakra, and the solar plexus, which is the will chakra, the Manipura. Now, they say that these first three chakras are kind of the lower levels of man. And then as we start to evolve, it starts with the heart and moving upwards. So when the fourth chakra is blocked, it's usually because of blocked emotions. This interferes with our ability to trust our intuitive guidance, to even listen to it, to feel it, to even believe it. And some people will get some people get intuitive guidance with a knowingness. Sometimes it's more of a clairvoyance. They see an image or they hear something. With me, I do get images sometimes, but it's more of a feeling. And it really, I've always been very intuitive, but I noticed that it just kind of went up a whole other octave when I started consistently doing the thoracic T. So also these blocked emotions in the heart chakra can affect your ability to love yourself and your ability to love and trust others fully. So that's another great advantage of working with this technique. And the solar plexus, which is at the very base where you're kind of going down to in your thoracic T, is the blocked emotions that are in your solar plexus interfere with self-confidence, because this is the chakra of the will. This is where willpower is centered. So it can impact your sense of personal power, your strength, your willpower too. So I really recommend then that you use the thoracic T. Let me take a sip of water. Both proactively and prophylactically. So you don't have to wait for an anxiety or a panic issue to arise. Like I said, sometimes, I'm just sitting watching TV or I'm reading a book and I find myself using, and it's just comforting. It's gotten to the point that it's very comforting because I know I'm doing some self-care that is very self-loving. So you can use this when you're in a good state or just even a neutral state. It doesn't have to be always related to a panic or a bad state. When you're thumping, focus on upbeat things going on in your life. Something that I think is a really powerful thing that we have our students do in a few of the courses is to create an inventory of blessings. We have them do 150, which is a real challenge and sometimes takes them days to do. And some people don't finish it. But even having 10, 20, 30 things, we've all been blessed. I mean, we're living relatively free. We don't have bombs going off over our head. We have food to eat. We have the ability to log into something like this class and learn things. So there's so many blessings that we don't pay attention to. We take a listen, I'm as guilty of this as anybody, of taking things for granted. And so it's a great thing to focus on while you're doing your thumping. And also, you could be doing it depositing good feelings into your heart center, simply letting it know, that I sometimes I'm just, I love you, I care about you, I'm here for you, just depositing good feelings. Is really powerful too. Repetition, as you start to do this and become more mindful, and you become aware right away when you're heading into one of those amygdala hijackings, or when something has kind of gotten you. If you continue to do this repetitively, it creates new attitudes, thoughts, and habits, because that's how the subconscious mind works. It's programmed through repetitive experiences or very traumatic experiences, and it will reprogram itself through these repetitive and thoughtful self-caring actions. It will also bring more consciousness and awareness before an onset. I have something that we teach in the hypnotherapy called a control key, and this works like that too. So it will bring you awareness. You'll start to feel when something's off. Like today, I was just having that kind of a day where things just, I knew that I could have just collapsed, and, I immediately went into thoracic tea with some other self-care that I do. And the effects are optimized always when you're doing it by having appreciation, gratitude, compassion, and care. Those are the qualities that they really promote at the Heart Math Center. That whenever you're working on this coherence, thinking in terms of appreciation, gratitude, compassion, and care will heighten the experience. And here we have a meditation and mindfulness instructor course, and this is our logo, and I thought it just really went, so I put this in here. It looks like we do have a little time to do some advanced application. What I want to do is I'll tell you about this one, and then we're going to do a technique that helps with depression and sorrow, since we have plenty of time. One of the ones, though, advanced application, is that a lot of us go through life with feelings of resentment or guilt. Let's face it, most of us were raised in either a Judaic or a Christian or Islamic foundation, which guilt, can be a very big part of. And our parents, I'm sure, and those people who were significant caretakers in our upbringing, they went through it too. I specialize a lot in generational trauma. I am a second generation Holocaust survivor. Both my parents were Holocaust survivors. So, being raised with that, feeling the guilt because of what happened to generations before me. So something that you can do to help work with that is with you can do your thumping, but you can also just imagine that in your hand, you can visualize it, or just imagine a violet flame. Now, violet is a color that is related to transmutation. And so, you can then use this flame, just imagine it, passing it through, the chakra system, or just keeping it over the heart. And when you have lack of forgiveness towards somebody, or resentment, or feelings of guilt, this is not maybe going to go away the very first time that you do this, but it's a wonderful thing that you can do. Over time, that will help transmute and transform those feelings, because we're not meant to hold on to those feelings. We've all been hurt. We've all been damaged in some way, but we can all travel to a higher octave around it and understand that we're not victims, that, perhaps kind of a higher element of ourselves, what I call the I am presence, or the divine spark, that was a challenge to take us to a higher place. And so if you see it that way and work through it, it's not just going to go away. It's something that you can work on. And I would like to guide you through another release technique. This way I don't have to record it for you. I'll just do it now. And you'll be talking about blackbirds, so I'm giving you the visual, and then there's this kind of cleanser, and this is kind of what that looks like. So I'm going to stop the share again. And before I take you into that, before I take you into that technique, would anybody like to share about their experience doing the thoracic T and the time that I had you practicing? And if you have something to say, just feel free to unmute your mic because it would be great to hear from you. Please don't be shy.
I have a question.
Sure. Who is asking the question?
Alexis,
Hi, Alexis. How are you?
great. How long do we do it for?
I'd say about 3 to 5 minutes. You'll get tired of it after that. I mean, if you feel like doing it longer, but even if you took a minute to do it, you're going to experience some relief. But I usually do a session for 3 to 5, and that's why I layer it, with affirmations and good feeling deposits and things like that, so that I'm really utilizing it. But try to just keep it going for like at least 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, I think I went like 10 minutes and I was really happy doing it.
Yeah, it feels really good, especially over time, because you're going to notice. So which hand position or finger position did you find worked the best for you?
I tried all of them and I think the one that I like is just the straight fingers.
The straight finger. See, yeah, everybody is different. I started out that way, and then it was like I just felt like if I didn't do it with the knuckles, it didn't give me as much of it. But yeah, play around with it and do it, and you'll find it evolving over time. You might go to a different hand position. Now, were you pretty much, did you find yourself staying in one particular area?
No, I was and that's my last question. So
Yeah.
how far down do I go? Like is it above the belly button or below?
It's about two
Okay.
inches above the belly button. You're right. You're exactly
Oh,
right.
okay.
That's kind of where your solar plexus is. It's
Okay.
kind of where when you breathe, like if you take a deep breath, and that's the part that kind of like lifts up there, your diaphragm, that is actually that's your solar plexus. So I try to go down there, that far if I'm able to. you know.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But sometimes I just feel like it just feels better if I'm just above the breastbone. Again, this is something that you'll experience with, and as I mentioned in the beginning, for those who came in, if you're a woman and you're out somewhere and you're wearing a bra or you're kind of well endowed, so it's kind of hard to get down there, do that. Do it because you'll feel better. But when you're home and you're able to get your bra off and you're able to be in a comfortable position, do it more. But it will definitely work for you in a situation where you're out and about and you have to be, kind of, I know the minute I walk in the house, the bra comes off, So now, Mary, you had a comment. So let me go into, I had that for the chat. All right, it's not coming up right now. Did you? Oh, okay. You really liked using two hands. All right, so when you were using two hands, did you have one going across and then one going down? I've never really tried that, but that's a really interesting idea.
I think it felt best for me.
Okay. Interested in a
I don't
way
know
to
if you
let
can
go of more grief. Mary?
you can hear me. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yes.
Okay. I think I felt best when I just used like my whole hand and then I kind of just like laid one hand across and one hand like downward so I covered both areas.
So like this
That
area, like what
was
I'm doing now, like one
yeah,
above and yeah. Oh,
yep.
that I love
And then
that.
the other one was like so basically one like kind of horizontal one covering the vertical area was all 5 fingers and I think that felt the best to me just because the whole area felt really good, but then like if I go across, I feel like I'm like I can't tap on the other areas and then of course it's a little bit sometimes tough because I have to like both hands felt the best. I mean one hand is also really soothing, but I think I personally felt a lot more of like a noticeable release
With it
with
too.
both hands.
Mhm.
Like kind
That's
of
great.
tapping for like about 5 minutes as well. I was just like getting some of the tension out. Um,
Yeah. And also
and
really just, like when you have one hand, you might be a little softer with it. Try also doing kind of some thumps too, just to see, because I find sometimes I'm soft, but I find sometimes I just really need that thumping. just to kind of
That's
loosen up
basically what I've been
whatever's
doing.
there.
Just like I use all five fingers, but I'm something the whole time.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that's great. All right. Well, I have a little time, so would everybody like to go ahead and have me guide you through this beautiful little technique to release Sarah?
I love it.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, guys. All right. It would help then if you go back to a muted microphone. And, I'd like to put music on, but I know it's just going to drown it out. What happens is when I do that, it just drowns it out in the replay. So for people who are listening to the replay, wouldn't be able to hear. So just everybody just get yourself in a comfortable position. And if you're wearing glasses, you might want to take them off. Just get yourself comfortable and sit, or you can lay back for this one if that's better. And when you feel ready, just go ahead and close your eyes. And let's start by taking some deep cleansing breaths. Breathing in through the nose, holding for a very brief moment, and then out through the mouth. We'll start out with 5 of these, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. And as you inhale, just imagine that you're taking in a very liberating freedom energy because you're ready to be free. And as you exhale, just let go of resistance, attachment. Sometimes we hold on to things far longer than we need to. So just give yourself permission to let go with each and every breath. And just focusing on the sound of my voice, let your body relax. Do a little body scan. If you're sitting in your chair, feel that your body is relaxing so that you're sinking more into the chair. And if you're lying down, just feel like you are just maybe sinking into a pillow or into that couch or mattress or cushion. Just let yourself take a deep relaxation wave from the very top of your head to the tips of your toes. And just go back to regular breathing now, in and out through the nose. But your breathing remains very deep and steady and relaxed without you having to put any particular attention. I want you to focus, if you would, your attention on that heart center, that area that I described to you physically and visually with the presentation, that area between your breastbone and your solar plexus, the area of your heart and respiratory system. And this is such a beautiful part of you. And if you've neglected this part of you, please feel forgiveness for yourself because we weren't taught these things. We always have an opportunity to improve, to devote ourselves to self-love and self-care. But right now, I want you, as I count from 4 to 1, just take yourself to something that has made you feel sad, sorrowful, grief, depressed. And I don't want you to sink in it or swim in it. Just bring up feelings. You know what it's like, but you don't have to dive headfirst into it. Just bring that feeling into your heart center and know that it has been there for a while. And in a few moments, so I'm going to count now from 4, 3, 2, 1. Take yourself there and just focus on the sorrow detach yourself at least 25%. Understand that this is a technique for feeling better, for feeling good. And there's no need to collapse into the sorrow. Just guide yourself by the sound of my voice, the relaxation in your body, and your deep breathing. You are safe and protected at all times. Now, in a few moments, I'm going to count from 3 to 1, and I want you to imagine that a trap door is opening from your heart outwards. And there have been like 10,000 blackbirds of sorrow that have been crouching in there, living in there, trying to exist. And you're going to just let them go. We're just going to let them go, let them be free, let them fly away. 3, 2, 1. That trapdoor opens. Just feel them whooshing. See them flying, or imagine them. Feel the relief and the release. I think there's still some more. So go ahead and release again. Just let them go. There's no need for them to occupy you anymore. You are willing to let go of this sorrow. But you know, with at least 10,000 blackbirds of sorrow taking up residence in your heart for so long, it's kind of messy and cruddy in there. So I want you to imagine that I'm handing you a hose, and from this hose comes this beautiful iridescent, almost glittery like spray. And I want you just to clear it and clean it and cleanse it with that beautiful, joyful, iridescent foam. Feel all those years of sorrow. Feel all that accumulation of grief. Feel that heaviness disappear as you're clearing out that thymus area. And just feel really good about yourself because you're doing this and you're committed to this. And you're committing yourself to use this technique to feel better about yourself. Because as you feel better about yourself, you are going to positively affect those around you and the world at large. The world needs this healing now, and you are part of the solution. Feel very proud of yourself. Take some deep breaths as you allow those doors to close. The integrity of your heart center remains unviolated. Your heart center is yours. It's clean, it's clear, and you're going to work to keep it that way. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, just let go of anything that you were holding on to still. Very good. And I'm going to count from 1 to 5. You'll come back to full awareness, feeling wonderfully good, feeling very positive, alert, as if you've just cleared your 5 senses in clear spring water. Coming back, 1, 2, feeling really good. 3, getting ready to come back now, clearing all the senses. 4 and 5, eyes open, wide awake. So, would anybody like to share about that experience? Now, I know personally you might want to go back and listen to the recording because find it really hard. Like even if my camera's off, like we sometimes have fabulous speakers from the academy, and I will I want to go through the thing with them when I'm moderating, and it's just hard for me to do. Let me share one more time. Alexa said that it was wonderful. Thank you very much. Let me just share one more time because I want to go back to just so that you see it again visually, the release. And you can do this 1,000, 10,000. I said 10,000. And this is kind of that iridescent foamy cleanser and water, and using that. And then, this will be also available. I will send it to the people that learn it live so that you can download the storyboard. And you have all of these links. You've got that 20 breath technique. If you'd like to find out about the Natural Wellness Academy and the courses that we offer, it's a really cool place. I sometimes feel like we're more of a tribe because we attract in very compassionate, very empathetic people. And if you go to the courses page, there's a fun little coaching pathway quiz. It's only 8 questions, and you find out kind of what your direction of being a healer in the world might take. And this has been the Thoracic Tea, which is a creation of the Natural Wellness Academy and something that I created. And I'll see if they want me to send. I have a thing that I wrote to because there was a university that was looking at it and they wanted to know the differences between EFT and thoracic tea. So does anybody want to share? We're just probably going to be wrapping up in the next 3 or 4 minutes, but you're welcome to. Alexis, I noticed, did you just unmute? Oh, okay.
The visualization in itself was wonderful. Are we doing it in conjunction with the tapping?
I'm sorry. You know what? When I said Alexis, my Alexa started speaking in the background. Sorry. I'm sorry, honey. Will you tell me that again?
I said the visualization in itself was amazing. Are we doing that in conjunction with the thoracic tapping?
I think this is something that you do just once in a while. This
Okay.
is an actual technique. You might want to, like I say, try it on your own. Some of you are not visual, and we understand that. So just imagine, just do your best to feel it. Some people are kinesthetic, so they feel things more. Some people, I'm very visual, so I see things. Some people are auditory, so just imagine that shushing, I think, is very very powerful. So you just have to
I
find.
just didn't know because I think like the visualization can even be a standalone thing. So I wasn't sure if I do it in conjunction.
No, this is a standalone, what I call an
Okay.
advanced application.
Got it.
But if
Okay.
it feels good when you're performing the thoracic tea, by all means, just go with it. We're all carrying so much sorrow. We carry not only the sorrow from our lifetimes, we carry the generational, back 10 generations. And, the more of this work, I mean, any of you who are parents, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent now. But when you do your work, the greatest gift that you can give, to your children, other than, of course, unconditional love, is doing that work on you, on yourself, on your stuff. And I'll use the word stuff. They don't have to deal then with your stuff. They still, there's still souls that have, their own issues. But, when you can break these generational traumatic chains, it's pretty powerful. Just by doing this work and just by feeling better, by feeling better, by acting better, you're going to be radiating such good things out in the world. And let's face it, we need that right now.
Thank you. And just one quick question.
Sure.
I really found this to work, but I never find tapping to work. So what is
I think tapping is brilliant, and I know many, many people that have so benefited from tapping. So I don't want to, I never want to, downgrade something that has helped so many people. When I was in my panic disorder, tapping was not working for me, but I kept radiating. The only ones that felt good were the collarbone tappings. And that's where I kind of I started like moving down. And that's kind of how I discovered my thoracic tea. And I knew a lot about also the thymus gland and all that too. The other thing, I'm a specialist in the subconscious mind. I was one of the initial, I was director of international development for the American Board of Hypnotherapy. I literally introduced hypnotherapy in Japan and my system, which is called Hypnopotential, for helping adults heal from childhood trauma. So there was something about the setup statements that really upset me in EFT. Like, even though I'm blah, 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 I do love the part that say I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I think that's beautiful, but I think if you're tapping and you're saying something like that to yourself, to me, that is making it go deeper this is the way I see it. But
so do I.
again,
Thank you so much.
sometimes it's power of suggestion, sometimes it works for people just because it works, Bethany, did you have a question for me? Let's see. Mary, I really liked the two hands. Did you, or did anybody else have a question? I thought I saw Bethany either raise her hand or I didn't see it in the chat. All right, well, I'm getting ready to wind down. If anybody has any questions, you can find me at that, the support at Natural Wellness Academy, or if you want to contact me directly, let me give you my email. It is, let's see, DRLJ Wellness at gmail.com. I just sometimes use this one above all else. But if you go to Natural Wellness Academy and you put Dr. LJ at Natural Wellness Academy, without any punctuation in it, that should get to me, or support at. Feel free to share with me. We did beta testing back in 21 and 22 when we were testing this for our first release of it, and it works really well with kids. I think if you can start teaching this type of thing to kids early on, from even the age of 4 or 5 years old, they will respond to this. If we can make strong kids by having them really learn to take care of their emotional dysregulation in proactive ways, that's a wonderful thing that we're doing. So anyway, guys, I'm going to stop the recording. I'll stay on for another moment because sometimes people don't like to ask questions on the recording. Let me just stop the recording. Okay. Thank you.